Seniors, I am Dr. Anya. Are you waking up at 2 a.m. or even 3 a.m. every single night just to use the bathroom? Most doctors will pat you on the shoulder and tell you this is just a normal part of getting older. They are clinically wrong. When you drag yourself out of bed in the middle of the night, you are not just losing a few minutes of rest. You are physically destroying up to 40% of your deep sleep cycle. That is the exact biological window when your brain releases human growth hormone to repair your cells and consolidate your memory. Every nighttime bathroom trip is actively accelerating your aging process. And here is the biggest myth of all. It is not because you drank too much water before bed. The real culprit is a neurological disconnect. Your kidneys are mismanaging fluid, and your bladder is sending false panic alarms to your brain in the dark.
Determined, tonight, we fix the root cause. I am going to reveal a precise clinical protocol using 4 specific nuts that will physically relax your bladder wall, regulate your kidney filtration, and keep you deeply asleep for 8 straight hours. If you are ready to stop waking up exhausted and finally reclaim your deep sleep, hit that subscribe button right now. Let's dive into the science.
Let's start with a biological tool you probably already have in your pantry, but you are not using clinically: the almond. When you wake up at 2 a.m. with a sudden, overwhelming urge to urinate, you assume your bladder is completely full. Medically speaking, this is often false. What you are actually experiencing is a bladder spasm. As we age, the smooth muscle tissue of the bladder wall becomes hyperactive and twitches because it is severely deficient in a critical mineral, magnesium. Almonds are a biological gold mine of pure, natural magnesium. When you eat them, this mineral acts as nature's ultimate muscle relaxer. It travels to your pelvic region and physically calms the smooth muscle of your bladder, stopping those false emergency signals from forcing you awake. But here is the clinical hack you must follow. You cannot just eat a handful of dry, roasted, salted almonds.
The brown skin contains enzyme inhibitors that block your gut from absorbing the magnesium. You must take 5 to 7 raw almonds, soak them in water during the day, and peel the skin off. Eat these soaked, peeled almonds exactly 1 hour before bed. This simple step deactivates the inhibitors and guarantees maximum magnesium absorption directly into your bloodstream.
Now we move from the bladder directly to the brain. If almonds are the muscle relaxer, our next biological tool is the master sleep conductor, the walnut. Millions of seniors rely on synthetic melatonin pills just to fall asleep. What most doctors fail to tell them is that the walnut is one of the only foods on earth that contains real, bioavailable melatonin. But its clinical power goes much deeper than that. Walnuts are packed with dense omega-3 fatty acids that force your brain to produce serotonin, the specific neurotransmitter responsible for deep, absolute relaxation. Why does this matter for your bladder? Because your urinary system and your brain are deeply connected. A stressed, hyperactive nervous system at night will constantly send anxious electrical signals down to your kidneys, forcing them to overfilter fluid into your bladder.
Thoughtful, by eating just 2 to 3 raw walnut halves an hour before bed, you are biochemically sedating your central nervous system. You are bathing your brain in natural serotonin and melatonin, effectively cutting off the anxious signals to your urinary tract. You are not just treating the bladder. You are fixing the neurological root of the problem.
We have relaxed the bladder muscle, and we have calmed the brain. But now we must travel down to the actual filtration plant of your body, your kidneys. When seniors complain about nighttime urination, the most common advice they get from their doctor is simply, Stop drinking water after 6 p.m. As a physician, I need to tell you that this is terrible, outdated advice. Forcing yourself into dehydration thickens your blood, increases your risk of nighttime blood clots, and leaves you waking up exhausted with a dry mouth. The problem is not the amount of water in your body. The problem is how your kidneys are managing that water. This brings us to our second biological tool, the pistachio. In a healthy, youthful body, the kidneys naturally slow down their urine production at night.
But as we age, we lose vital intracellular minerals, causing the kidneys to lose their grip on fluid. Instead of holding on to water, they aggressively filter it and dump it straight into your bladder while you are trying to sleep. Pistachios are a biological powerhouse for a specific vital electrolyte, potassium. When you eat pistachios, that dense dose of potassium enters your renal system and creates a powerful cellular gradient. Think of potassium as a biological sponge or a microscopic dam inside your kidneys. It physically signals the kidneys to hold onto fluid inside the cells, rather than flushing it out into the bladder all at once. By restoring your potassium levels, you are teaching your kidneys how to regulate fluid slowly and smoothly throughout the night. But the clinical power of the pistachio does not stop at the kidneys. Pistachios contain extraordinarily high levels of vitamin B6. Vitamin B6 is the absolute biological requirement for your brain to manufacture a neurotransmitter called GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid. If serotonin is the chemical that makes you feel calm, GABA is the chemical that acts as the heavy brakes on your nervous system. When you are asleep, GABA effectively mutes the sensory signals traveling from your bladder up to your brain. It stops your brain from waking you up in a panic just because there are a few drops of fluid in your bladder. But I must give you a very strict clinical warning. If you want this to work, you must buy raw, unsalted pistachios. If you eat salted pistachios, you are introducing heavy sodium into your bloodstream. Sodium does the exact opposite of potassium. It violently pulls water out of your cells, spikes your blood pressure, and completely floods your bladder. The salt will completely neutralize the medicine. Choose unsalted pistachios and let the potassium do its deeply restorative work.
We have relaxed the bladder muscle, we have sedated the nervous system, and we have taught the kidneys how to hold on to fluid. But for many seniors, even if you do all of those things, you still wake up with an urgent need to pee. Why? Because we have not addressed the physical health of the tissue itself. This brings us to our number one biological tool, the hazelnut. As we age, the delicate inner lining of the bladder, called the urothelium, suffers from constant, low-grade oxidative stress. Over decades of filtering acidic urine, this tissue develops microscopic inflammation. Even if your bladder is almost completely empty, this inflamed, irritated tissue is highly sensitive. It constantly screams at your brain, telling you it needs to be emptied immediately. You wake up, walk to the bathroom, and barely pee a few drops. The problem was never the volume of liquid. The problem was physical inflammation.
Hazelnuts are a medicinal powerhouse designed specifically to heal this tissue. They contain the highest concentration of vitamin E and specific plant compounds called phytosterols. Vitamin E is a potent, fat-soluble antioxidant. When you eat hazelnuts, this vitamin is carried straight into your urinary tract. It literally coats the urothelium, acting like a microscopic, lipid-based armor. It physically neutralizes the oxidative stress and drastically reduces the cellular irritation along the bladder wall. But it goes even deeper. Hazelnuts are incredibly rich in omega-9 fatty acids. While omega-3s work on your brain, omega-9s are systemic anti-inflammatories. They pull the heat and swelling out of your entire pelvic region, including the prostate in men and the pelvic floor in women. When you combine the protective shield of vitamin E with the deep anti-inflammatory power of omega-9s, you create a calm, cool environment inside your urinary tract. The false alarms completely stop. But again, preparation is everything. Do not ruin this medicine by eating hazelnuts coated in sugar, chocolate, or heavy salts. You need 6 to 8 raw or lightly dry roasted hazelnuts. If your digestion is slow, you can even crush them and stir them into a small cup of warm, caffeine-free herbal tea. The warm liquid will help extract the oils and deliver them directly into your system, preparing your pelvic floor for a night of absolute, unbroken rest.
Seniors, you now understand the exact neurology and urology of your sleep. Now, let us translate this science into your nightly clinical protocol. Do not overwhelm your digestion by eating all of these at once. You must choose only one of these biological tools to eat exactly 1 hour before you go to sleep. Option 1. 5 to 7 soaked and peeled almonds. Option 2. 2 to 3 raw walnut halves. Option 3. 20 raw unsalted pistachios. Option 4. 6 to 8 raw hazelnuts. By taking this simple, targeted dose, you are giving your bladder, kidneys, and brain the exact chemical signals they need to power down and stay asleep for 8 straight hours. It is time to reclaim your deep sleep and stop accelerating your aging process. Make your vitality pledge right now. Go to the comments below and type the powerful words, "I am resting my body tonight." And while you are there, tell me your plan. Which of these 4 nuts are you going to try tonight?
I read every single comment, and I want to see you succeed. If this clinical masterclass gave you a real, scientific solution to your nighttime exhaustion, hit the like button. Share this video with a friend or a spouse who is tired of waking up at 3 a.m. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. I am Dr. Anya. Guard your health, honor your biology, and I will see you in the next video.